Thank you. First of all, Mr. Avidis, thank you for the introduction. It is very important to have members from DRI here with us, and it's exceptional to have students to have an introduction like this. So today, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. Everybody who's attending the web conference, I'm very happy to be the first one to the opening 3 days of these conferences, and I'm pretty sure that everybody will gain a lot from these 3 days and all the speakers that we have. Let me share my screen and start the presentation. So we'll talk about sports tourism, its niche markets, and the day after the pandemic. To begin with, let's see what is sports tourism. So we will talk about the definition. The definition, as you can see on the right, involves three things. First, has all forms of sporting activities. Two, is non-commercial. And three, is activity that is away from home. Sports tourism has three main components. It's sporting holidays, sporting events, and the third one is sports attractions. Sporting holidays, from weekend races in the mainland or an island like Patmos to golf tournaments to a weekend getaway in October to swim in Santorini next to the volcano or run a half marathon in the famous Voidokilya beach. These types of tourism bring tens of thousands of spectators. And of course, all these people, they need a place to stay, they need a place to eat and enjoy their time, and even buy a souvenir. Long story short, that means that more money for the local economy, hotels, restaurants, gift shop, etc. And all these leads to the local economic growth. Sporting events. Which do you think was the first sporting event of history? As you can see, is the Olympic Games in ancient Greece, where this basically were the first type of this kind of tourism. And of course, it was not only for people that traveled to go and compete, but it was also for the people who went there to watch the games. Of course, these mega sport events, such as the Olympics and World Cups, are a catalyst for sports development, but are subject to being successfully leveraged in terms of destination, branding, infrastructure, and other economic and social benefits. So now you can see that the third type of sports tourism is sports attractions, and it exists in a few cases in the world. It's basically Hall of Fame, museums, stadiums, etc. Now we're going to see the example of Barcelona, the football club, which contributed more than almost 1.2 billion euros to the wealth of the city for the year 2019, 18-19. It added almost 20,000 jobs and tax revenue of some of 3,600 million, according to BWC. So as you can see, it was a significant amount of money that came from tourists that a club attracted to the city. And as you can see, this translated into 1.4 billion overnight stays for the city of Barcelona, which is a huge number. And again, another interesting fact is for each job created directly by the club, 12 additional jobs were created for the city. The example of the stadium is that the Barca Stadium, the Camp Nou, generates 145 million euros profit through stadium activities. Same number for Bernabeu, Real Madrid Stadium, is 143.4. So it's an equal amount, but still is a huge amount of money that comes from stadium activities, which is ticketing, catering, concessions, museums, and every other activity that is connected to the stadium. So let's move on and see the profile of a sports tourist. So a sports tourist, is someone who is adventurous, is likely to travel, and especially with his family. They tend to return to previous destination, and of course, they love cultural activities, and of course, they're active. In a few words, they stay longer than any other type of tourist, and at the same time, they contribute to other forms of tourism. On the right side, you can also see some interesting financial data by age for sports tourism. And as you see, the older you get, the more you spend. As you will see later on, sports tourism is itself a niche market within the travel industry, but also has quite a few sub-niches. This is a little complicated, but it's just to show you what I said before and all the sub-niches that sports tourism has. Basically, we split into 3 levels, and it's niche, specialist niche, and a passion group. And this figures to show the complexity and the potential of sports tourism. You will see numbers in the following slides that demonstrate how important sports tourism is for the whole tourism industry. So among the first niche, sports tourism trips is the most important since it covers all sports. So in our opinion, we strongly believe that wellness is a significant part of sports tourism. You can see the numbers. For example, the global wellness economy is a 4.2 trillion market. And of course, these type of tourists spend much, much more than any other tourist. As you can see in the last point, international wellness tourists spend almost $1,500 on average per trip, which is 50% more than the typical international tourist. And of course, domestic is similar to that. They spend $600 per trip, which is much, much higher, actually. It's almost 200% more than the average domestic tourist. But let's see what makes sporting holidays so popular. First of all, it gives a meaning to your holidays. Then it makes you respect and enjoy nature. And of course, because sports unite people, people of all races and religions, sports create friendships between people who maybe would not normally communicate. So we believe that sports bring people together. Let's see now some facts below and see how accurate they are. So the mountain destination of Zaporozhye is a high season it's high season in summer. So as odd as this might look, it's true. Let's move on. It's Kalymnos, the island. It's a climbing destination which was discovered, in quotes, by Italians just before the millennium. Actually, it was discovered in 1997, and surprisingly enough, the high season for that is winter. Let's watch a video though after that.
Βλέπετε το νησάκι μας. Το νησάκι μας ήταν Ξερονήσι. Πρώτα ζούσαμε από τα σφουγγάρια. Τώρα τα σφουγγάρια φύγανε οι ορειβάτες. Το φεστιβάλ θα δώσει ζωή. Γιατί η ζωή είναι ότι θα πάει και παραπέρα.
But what I really love, in fact, is the people. The more I get to meet the people, the more I find they're amazing.
People of Kalymnos are super nice. They're really welcome.
What we wanted to achieve with the festival, and the most important thing was to create something totally new for the climbing world.
Try to understand what is the way for a climber. I think Kalymnos is the best place in the world to do it. There is climbing, my friend.
Amazing.
The routes there are fantastic. The people here are great.
even though we're on a very small island of Greece, Limnos, we still have like a big event, the North Face Festival. So I think it's a very big opportunity.
Y por los proyectos hay, bueno, unas primas de dinero y hay como 10, 12 escaladores internacionales de diferentes países, que son los invitados.
Στη Β' έχουμε 2.200 αναρχιδικές διαδρομές. Κάθε χρόνο ανοίγονται περίπου 200 νέες διαδρομές.
Moving on. Tourists from North Korea have free visas for Greece, which is another true fact, surprisingly enough. So in the year of 2018, and we're talking about tourists from China traveling Greece, Greece was a destination for not even 1% of these Chinese travel abroad. So to see the actual numbers, 135,000 travel in Greece, while all the Chinese people who traveled abroad were 140 million. So it's a huge discrepancy here. We can see about all the Chinese people who travel in Greece. Furthermore, talking about the Santorini experience and the album Santorini. So in October of 2019, Santorini had a 30% raise in its international air arrivals. If you think that in the first Santorini experience in 2015, the international arrivals were 17,000, we ended up in 2019 to have 38,000 arrivals. So it's a number that more than doubled. Again, for this amazing experience, it will be very helpful for you to watch a video from the island and this amazing event.
Ήταν μια πολύ όμορφη, από τις πιο όμορφες διαδρομές που έχω κάνει, όπως και πέρσι το ίδιο, αλλά κάθε φορά είναι μοναδικά γιατί είναι το τοπίο τέτοιο που δεν το χορταίνεις.
It's such a special location, but to come out here, swim in these waters, it's so beautiful, so clear.
Η διάθεση που έχουμε μέσα στο νερό και η ενέργεια, γιατί όταν κολυμπάς στη Σαντορίνη και βλέπεις αυτό το πράγμα απέναντί σου, σίγουρα είσαι απλά εκστασιασμένος.
It's amazing. I love it so much. And this color is absolutely unique. So clean.
Είμαστε στο νούμερο 1 τουριστικό προορισμό. Είμαστε σε full ελληνικές συνθήκες. Αέρας, θάλασσα, ήλιος.
Το ευχαριστήθηκα με την ψυχή μου τη διαδρομή γιατί την πήγα άνετα και νομίζω ότι είναι πολύ ωραίο.
So another growing sport in sports tourism is golf. So golf tourists on their trips indeed have higher average spending than any other type of tourist. And it is very interesting that for every $3 spent from golfers, the $1 out of these go to the infrastructure and how to make the field better for the game. Following is another video from golf and this amazing sport that we all know that is growing throughout the past at least 10 years here in Greece and of course worldwide.
I'm here again. Today is for me. I am the epitome of style. I'm flawless. You just watch me. I'm fast. Don't play with me. I'll bring you down before you know it. You want me. I know you like my dimples. Give it your best shot. set me free. People say size matters. I don't. But what do I know? I'm just a golf ball.
Next, let's see some numbers about sports tourism. So, according to the World Travel Organization, the global sports tourism industry is worth $800 million, which represents 10% of the global tourism pie. Also, the world sports tourism runs at an annual of 14% increase. It's pretty significant number. So now let's see some interesting figures from individual countries, and starting with Greece. And these data are from 2019 and refer to all types of tourism, not only sports tourism, but all types of tourism. So just over 30 million tourists came to Greece, and the revenue from the year before increased by 13%, and it was almost 18 billion. So the industry's direct contribution to the country's GDP came to 21.6 billion euros. And I say it again, these data are from all types of tourism. Moving on with Austria. Sports tourism in Austria alone is as strong as the whole sector of tourism in Croatia or Poland. It's pretty amazing. But Austria's sports impact on the domestic economy is the highest among the European countries, the countries from the European Union, sorry. And the reason for that is a special position within the sports tourism. As you can see, 58% of the overnight stays are relevant in some terms with sports. And 57% of its top 30 municipalities have a sports share of more than 50%. And all activities that have sport as an input had a gross value of more than 18 billion. And of course, leisure and sports enterprises exceed the number of 18,000. And again, these are numbers just for sports tourism. Then there are our neighbors, Turkey. So there were more than 500,000 tourists that visited this country in 2014 just for sporting reasons. In the 2017-2018 season, the revenues from sports tourism hit $800 million US. Again, think about the numbers we had in Greece about tourism in general, and then see these numbers. So as the average foreign tourist spends 800 in Turkey, the tourists that doing sports at the same time, they spend more than double. And interesting facts are that in 2017, 160,000 tourists visited Turkey just to play golf in one of the 33 golf fields they have there. And 1,200 football teams went there just for camps. Finally, for Italy, Italy generates between 12 to 15 million of international arrivals per annum and has a turnover of 800 billion euros. The popular sports for Italy is skiing, running, and biking. And it's interesting to say here that all beaches belong to the Italian Swimming Federation in terms of revenue. The third of its population, which is almost 20 million, practice sport, and 25% of those that practice sports regularly. Finally, according to the National Observatory for Tourism in Italy, 15.5% of Italian tourists and 6% of foreign ones, they choose sporting holidays instead of just holidays in general. It was predicted that the global sports tourism would have a growth rate of more than 35% between 2019 and 2024. As you can see, the global sports tourism market was valued at 1.5 billion in 2018, and it was expected to grow to close 7 billion by 2023. And of course, this was before the pandemic hit. But one thing to compare numbers here is that, so mark this 35% of at the growth rate. Imagine that now, that right after the pandemic, actually right when the pandemic was on, at the beginning, Apple had a growth rate of 5.5, Netflix 32%, and Amazon 28%. So compare these numbers to the growth rate of global sports tourism, which was 35%. But again, as we said, the pandemic hit, and all these numbers, of course, went down, and this calculated growth rate will stop, and hopefully will begin again shortly, very soon. So by the number that due to COVID-19, the European outbound tourism market in general is expected to show shrinkage at almost 70% in 2020. And here it says, but recover almost fully in 2021. But as we can see, that the pandemic is still on, and vaccination has not even, well, has started, but the results are not even shown yet. These numbers will increase, and hopefully things will start to get better beginning in the fourth quarter of this year of 2021. So let's see the impact of the pandemic in sports tourism. So since March 2020, as you know, the pandemic forced many venues and sporting events to sit empty or operate with very limited capacity. A lot of things to take under consideration here. And of course, safety is first. Also, it's an ethical and a social matter. The first thing that someone must guarantee is the safety of the participants and the well-being of everyone involved. And this is not an easy thing. It's very challenging. So when planning an event, these are the things that you should consider. And this is the things that we consider when we put together this event that we'll see below. So first of all is the type of event, if it's a low or a high risk, the size of it, of course, if it's indoor or outdoor, the facilities, and of course the setting which adapts to the new normal. As an example, you will see how the authentic marathon swim was prepared in September 2020. So of course we have an approved health protocol. We had a certification for mass events during the pandemic by the World Health Organization, and mandatory use of mask, temperature measurements, demarcation of 2,000 square meters, wave starts, and PCR tests. That this was the new normal and became mandatory for us and for everyone that wanted to organize an athletic event. You'll see some pictures from all the safety measures that we took throughout these days. And you will see that our main concern was to keep the distances throughout all activities. So this slide, in my opinion, is the most interesting part of the whole presentation. Talks about vitamin N. And what is vitamin N? Is spending 30 minutes a day in nature. Keep in mind that traveling for cycling, hiking, walking, trailing, paddling is growing fast, not only because these activities are wellness experiences, but because they are naturally distance activities. And this is the most important than ever before, keeping the distances. And based on our own experience and our own assessment of the last few months, we strongly believe that the sports, fitness, and wellness industry will recover soon and will be much stronger than before. But it is important now to put one's health above all, but also try to stay active. Our industry can lead by inspiring individuals and communities to stay active while at the same time remaining healthy. So finally, this is a quote that best represents us and our culture and our philosophy. is do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Well, thank you very much, and really looking forward to hear your questions and further discuss this presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karvountzis, for your insightful presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time to analyze sports tourism beyond vacation and its niche markets. You had some really exciting examples to show us during this pandemic era. So, I will have to say to the audience that you do not need to forget that you have to send your questions under the streaming of each speaker. Nikos from our social media team will collect all these questions and I will set them to our speaker. So, Mr. Karvountzis, we will start our Q&A session. We have some people here that watched your presentation, so I will go to the first question. So, they say, compared to other types of tourism, given that the characteristics of sports tourism and combined with the fact that sports have been banned for a while, do you expect sports tourism to continue its rapid development once the pandemic is over?
Well, I believe that we all have our own experience in that, and like everyone who is quarantined for all these months, what we need to do whenever this thing ends is to go out, have a good time, and travel. So, traveling and doing activities best describe what sports tourism is. Go out there, have a good time, travel, do some activities. So, in my opinion, yes, definitely the growth will continue from where it stopped. And hopefully this will happen very soon.
Okay. So, through your experience and with all these events that happened in 2020, what is the number one factor that needs to improve for Greece in order to exploit the potential of sports tourism? What do you think is the main factor for this?
Well,
would you like
I
me
think
to
we
repeat?
must have like a more defined strategy. No. Maybe we need to have a more defined strategy and analyze all the things that we can actually gain from sports tourism. The example is there. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. The example is there in other countries, as we discussed before. So what do we need to do is just not copy, but see what they do well and try to do it on our own. We have a lot of things that we can do here.
Sorry, we couldn't hear you well.
I said that this country has a lot of history and culture, so we have a lot of opportunities if we have a proper strategy to do things right. The example is out there, so see the examples, see what other countries do right, and we should do the same thing. Adapted, of course, to Greece.
Of course. So we have another one who is on our chat and says, do you think that sports tourism will lead the way for the whole tourism industry after the pandemic?
Well, definitely. In general, sports lead the way in most of the things. So, of course, in sports tourism, as well. Again, sports unite people, brings people together, and like forever, I think sports lead by example. So, the sports industry needs to do the same thing now. It's a more critical time throughout the past years.
Okay, so another one on our chat. Keep sending questions, keep learning, keep educating. Thank you for your insightful presentation, Mr. Karvountzis. Greece indeed has all the basic assets in terms of geography and climate to support all kinds of different sports events and develop the sports tourism industry. Nevertheless, it seems that many times such sports events in Greece are approached as an opportunistic one-time-a-year event. This can be due to a lack of qualified personnel, economic resources, lack of strategic planning, So, in your opinion, which are the basic 5 elements, 3 could do as well, that a sport event should develop, especially post-COVID-19, in order to create substantial, all year round branding of the event and leverage its benefits to destination marketing as well?
Well, first of all, is try to ensure safety for everybody involved, not only for participants, but for everybody involved. This is number one. Then is support the local economies. And as a question said, these events should not be one time of the year or one time and that's it. Needs to have a continuation. So if you have a continuation, that means that you support local economy. And in my opinion, this is one of the most important things. That again, the local economy will support you back. And then the third one, I suppose, is trying to be as sustainable as possible because the time has changed. So sustainability is not an option now. It's mandatory. So in my opinion, these 3 things need to be, are actually the 3 main pillars of sports events for the future.
Mm-hmm. So how will the sports tourism sector adjust in the post-COVID-19 area, requiring people to come together and engage in sports, relive what we had before the COVID era?
Well, we're gonna start by having some outdoor events first, have our distances, and then slowly everybody will adapt to the new normality. It will take some time, but again, I strongly believe that in the next few years, sports tourism industry will grow back as fast as it was planned in 2019.
We have another executive saying that, thank you very much, Mr. Karvountzis, it was interesting here. So here in Greece, is there a specific area for sports tourism? Do you think we could be the headliners in this sector?
Well, wellness, of course, running events, but in my opinion, whatever you do, it needs to be tied with local communities. I keep saying that because I do believe that it's very, very important. Whatever you do, whatever organizers do, they need to give back to the community.
So do you think that Greece can be the leader in this section?
Well, I do not know if it can be a leader because there are other countries that perform much better, but definitely we can be a point of reference for the next years to come.
So, Mr. Karavas, Christos, it seems that the new trend is virtual events. Could this constitute an obstacle to sports tourism as we know it, and how? Thank you.
I believe no, because again, no matter how advanced virtual technology can be,
can you please repeat?
At the end of the day, we will want to go out. I believe that no matter how advanced technology will be or is, at the end of the day, we want to go out and be active and do things that we used to do. So yes, it might take us a bit longer, but I don't think it's going to affect it.
What's your plans as ActiveMedia for 2021? You are
well, we have already a plan.
Yeah.
At least we have a list of events coming, so we're prepared for everything. We have all the protocols and measures taken, and we're just waiting to start.
Just having a technical issue, but I think it's fixed now.
Okay, I said we have a lot of events coming up. We have Run for Messenia, which is a tribute to the revolution of 1821 for Greece. We have the authentic marathon swim. We have a lot of events, so just stay tuned and you will see each one of them.
Perfect. Okay. So, You said something about the stats of Greece. Many people want to know a lot about how Greece interacts and how they promote sports tourism, because most of the investments that we see in the statistics are from abroad. Do we expect this to have some evolution for Greece to receive some data that could be useful for all business, for the sports business industry? I mean, sports tourism.
Well, maybe this difference in the numbers that we see has to do with the data that we collect and use. Of course, the data is out there, but the way that we actually analyze them can actually show different examples. So yes, we need to take this data that we have and analyze them better in order to have a better understanding of sports tourism and what a sports tourist wants from Greece.
Perfect. Do you wish to make any other statements before we close our very interesting discussion?
Well, I'm very happy to start this series of lectures and speeches. So again, just stay tuned for all the events that ActiveMedia will have in the next few months. And, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karvountzis, for your insightful presentation. It was an honor to have you with us.